Hello and welcome to another episode of Blackjack Movies. I'm your host, Pat Hilke, taking you through the journey of the best damn movie podcast on the internet. I am here once again with the man, the myth, the legend, Danko Yu. What's up, Danko?
What up, Pat?
All right, man. We just got out of the screening of All the Money in the World. This is the movie that Ridley Scott decided to reshoot after the whole Kevin Spacey accusations and debacle and everything. So he brought Christopher Plummer in. It also stars Michelle Williams and Mark Wahlberg. And
Christopher Plummer, by the way, must be the man if he can reshoot months of directing in 9 days.
9 days.
9 days.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
And so before we get into the whole review of it or whatever, as we do all the time, we give you the good, we give you the bad, and then we'll give you our Blackjack Movies rating out of 10. So let's start with the good. What did you like about the movie?
Well, I like the story. I mean, I didn't know much about the kidnapping of Paul Getty, but it was a pretty interesting story. Kept me going through the whole thing. I cared about, seeing the story through, seeing what happens to the kid. I really liked that part of it. Some of the performances were pretty good, although I feel like the performances individually were pretty good. Like, I like Christopher Plummer, I liked Michelle Williams, but I feel like they were in different movies at times.
Well, they were.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, Mark Wahlberg is always kind of Mark Wahlberg wherever he is.
Marky Mark is Marky Mark.
And you gotta love him, but still. So there's definitely some good parts to it.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like it's not necessarily as cohesive as I would have wanted it, but I liked it.
And my good is the story as well. Like the story itself and the whole premise and being able to see, this kid get kidnapped and where it goes from how, how much money they're asking for at the beginning to what it actually ends up to be, how they end up getting the money for the ransom. All of that stuff was really cool.
Right.
Like I enjoyed that part. I thought the parts that they showed with the kidnappers and Paul Getty and his main kidnapper, like I enjoyed those scenes.
Right.
You're right. The performances are good. Like Christopher Plummer has a good performance. Michelle Williams has a good performance. Mark Wahlberg has a good performance. But as we get into the bad right now, the cohesiveness, you're 100% correct, is not there. It's like, Marky Mark is doing the movie and he's good with each character, right? Like
right.
He was good with Christopher Plummer, he's good with Michelle Williams. Michelle Williams and Christopher Plummer are in two different movies.
Right. Well, so you got Christopher Plummer is Scrooge, basically, and just in a different setting. And, it's good. The only thing I was missing, I like this, it was a good performance. The only thing I thought was missing, basically the big thing with the movie is he's a billionaire, but he doesn't want to dish out the cash to rescue his son, or grandson.
Right.
But, you don't get enough of him explaining why he doesn't want to do it. And I feel like they could have done better with that, with him, explaining himself more, because it's like a drop in the bucket for him,
Right.
And it just I feel like the way they explained it was very on the surface. And then Michelle Williams acted like what actresses predominantly acted like 50 years ago. If you think of any Marilyn Monroe movie, right. It's kind of like a little over the top, kind of proper, and she has an accent that I can't quite place. It's like, is it American posh? Is it kind of like a little British? I don't really get it,
Yeah, and that was the main, for me, that was, with her performance, that was my main, downside for it. The bad part was, it's just the accent was, I couldn't place if she was trying to be New England or if she was trying to be somewhere else. She was, not Southern or anything, but the accent that she was going for, you're right again. It felt like that affect that those actresses had, like a Marilyn Monroe or a Doris Day or whatever. It was
over
this,
the top,
yes,
and it's unnatural almost.
This thing that you're watching and you're like, okay, it's taking you out of the movie a little bit here and there. Even though her performance is great, it took me out of the film. And those were the times that I was like, okay, this is starting to drag on. I'm gonna start looking at my watch and wonder like, when is this movie gonna end?
Right.
And it's a long movie. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes long.
Right. It's the pacing of the movie I felt could have been improved. There were some things that were just kind of didn't go anywhere necessarily. And by the way, I wanted to say for Michelle Williams, right? I gotta say, out of like, usually actresses are like, they're good looking. They usually have like a good supporting role. I feel like she's the best young character actress today in Hollywood. It's like you see her supporting in all of these good movies, you know, with the Manchester by the Sea, then like there was the movie with Ryan Gosling and all these different movies that she's like supported kind of low budget. This is like the first one where she was actually like a leading actress.
Yeah, for a long time.
I didn't know she was going to be the leading. I thought it was going to be more Marky Mark and Christopher Plummer, but I thought she did a really interesting
she's
job.
the headliner.
She
is definitely the headliner of the movie.
Kind of happy for her.
Christopher Plummer is I think the second lead, and which is amazing considering they reshot that role in
well, he's
9
a clutch
days.
character, you know.
And then Mark Wahlberg is definitely the supporting piece in the movie.
Right. And I was going to say, the thing about Marky Mark there is he's always got no matter where he is, if he's like, you know, a comedy or anything, different kind of genre movie, he's always got to have like the, you know, like tough guy thing where he's like, I'm going to knock you out, bro. Well, you know what I mean? Well, and he does that too. And it's like, oh, come on. Well, this is the wrong movie to do this.
What's funny in that scene, because I know exactly the scene you're talking about, it's like, you can tell that that's one of the reshot scenes. Not only because he's acting off of Christopher Plummer, but it feels like a different movie that he's in at that point. Like, the scene itself is pretty cool, but, like, I felt like he didn't have the strong Boston accent throughout the whole film. But in that one scene, all of a sudden his Boston accent comes through.
The ghetto comes out.
Yeah, it's like, it's just one of those things of like, okay, look, we don't have time to get your dialect coach back or anything else. We just, Mark, we need you to come in, shoot this scene this day because, you know, Christopher is doing, you know, the reshoot. Can you just come in, nail this thing like you did the first time with Kevin Spacey? And we just, if, you know, your accent comes out, it just comes out. You know, we have 9 days.
Yep.
And so I think that's what basically happened there. You know, the movie itself is good. So it's one of those things of like, would I recommend it to people to go see? Yes. Do I think it's an Oscar caliber type movie? You know, it was nominated for Golden Globes and everything. And no, I don't feel like it's one of those type of movies. Like, I think a lot of the hype behind the movie is what carried the day for the movie with the Hollywood Foreign Press, and I'll be very surprised if it's nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, I don't think it was paced well enough to be like one of those. Like if Spielberg did it and it was like paced amicably, I think it could have drawn us in better. But I don't think it was paced well.
Although I will give Ridley Scott props on this part. Like, this dude did Alien, Covenant, produced Blade Runner 2049. And did this movie, All the Money in the World, all in the same year. I mean, that dude is working hard for a man of his age.
Yep.
You know, and so I'll give him props on that. Like, for the award season and everything for the Oscars, maybe Christopher Plummer, just because of, you know, having to reshoot the role in 9 days, and maybe he'll get a sniff of Best Supporting Actor.
And, you know, actors with pedigree like him often get respect, you know, and I think he'll probably get a nomination. I gotta imagine there's got to be better ones out there.
I think so. I mean, I think there's other ones that I'm thinking of right now that I would rather see, but it wouldn't surprise me. I'll just put it that way.
I mean, I'd definitely check it out. I wouldn't go to the movies for it.
No, I'd wait for Netflix. Yeah. All right, man, let's get to the Blackjack Movies rating out of 10. What would you give All the Money in the World?
You know, I'll give it a good solid 7.25.
Oh, seven and a quarter.
7 and a quarter, bro.
Woo,
I didn't want to go 7.5, 7.
I think this is the first time we've ever had a hundredths on the podcast, man.
What are you talking about?
There's never been a 7.25. There's never been a
Listen, I've been teaching fractions for a long time.
I like it. That's a good job, man. Like I wasn't expecting that. You took me by surprise right now. I'm going to give it a 6.5. It's a movie that is above average, and it's a movie.
Is 6 an average for you?
Yeah, 6 is average.
What?
Yeah, 6 is average.
7 is worth seeing. 6 is eh.
But you're saying, I say that it's worth seeing, but we both agree that it's worth seeing on Netflix. So it's one of those things of like 6.5, yeah. 7, I would say you got to go to the theater to see this thing. You gave it 7.25.
You go to the theaters a lot more than I.
I do,
so, yeah.
and you just spent money to go see this with me.
It's Tuesday, 6:25.
Hey, that's pretty good. Yeah, go check it out, man. All right, so 6.5 from me.
I recommend it on a Tuesday.
There you go. On a Tuesday, go see it in the theater on a Tuesday. AMC and Regal both
Better
running
than
specials.
Star Wars for sure.
You're out of your damn mind. You just lost your mind. Unbelievable. Now I got to kick him off the podcast, my friends. All right, 7.25 for Danko, 6.5 from me. I think we both say if it's not a Tuesday, wait for Netflix. All right?
That's cheesy.
All right, man. It's Blackjack Movies. We're out.